And I want to express my thanks to the board of Mount Royal, to the faculty, to all the staff here. And I want to also welcome everyone who is here today, and particularly I'm so glad to see all of these new graduates that will cross the stage here today. You know, at one point in my life, I had actually applied to obtain a Master's of Business Administration degree at another university, but chose instead to another course of action. So I think it's quite fitting today that I now have a well-recognized business administration degree from Mount Royal. And the good news is I did not have to attend any classes. I did not have to do any studying, and I did not have to write any exams. How can it be any better than that? Now, all of you today, of course, have worked hard to reach your graduation day and had to go through all of those things. So last time I stood here was in the capacity as chair of the Mount Royal University Board of Governors. I had the good fortune to be invited to join the MRU board in 2006 by a previous chair, Hal Quisley. Hal was instrumental in the work conducted by the MRU executive and the faculty to transition the school from a college to a university. And it was his successor, Kathy Williams, who continued that work and was the chair when Premier Ed Stelmach came to Mount Royal. And I think the date was September 9, 2009. I might be incorrect there, but that's what I remember, to officially designate Mount Royal a university. And Kathy continued the work needed to transform from college to university, and that's a continuing effort today. So I was privileged to be asked to serve as the chair of Mount Royal and took over from Kathy in the fall of 2010. And during my time as chair, as Catherine has already said, we welcomed our president, David Docherty. We also welcomed Catherine Shaler to her position as Provo and VP Academic. We secured the funding for the new conservatory, which is an amazing looking building, and every time I drive by, I think how fortunate we are, and saw much of it built while I was here. And shortly before I stepped down, the funding for the new library was secured. These were all very exciting events. There were some challenges, and I mentioned particularly the funding cuts by Alberta Advanced Education, which forced program and enrollment reductions on MRU, as well as on other colleges and universities. A very difficult time for the university, but it has moved through it, and we move on. So despite those challenges, MRU remains a household name in the city, and its graduates are celebrated and sought after by many employers. I have been told many times how impressed employers are with graduates that they hire from Mount Royal. So these are the expectations you need to live up to as you move forward. In any event, it's time for me to stop reminiscing and for the spotlight to shine on each of you. But just a few thoughts that I would like to leave you with. Being an honorary degree recipient makes you consider what were the more significant influences that guided you or enabled you in your career and in your life. Now, I've given that an awful lot of thought these past few weeks, and for me, three things in particular stand out. The first of these is stability. It begins with stability in your upbringing, in your work, and in your married life. My mom and dad both came from modest circumstances. They grew up in the Depression, and neither finished high school. And shortly after I was born, and this is not long after the end of the Second World War, I am that old, unfortunately, Dad contracted tuberculosis, and he spent 11 months convalescing. So fortunately, his employer held his job for him, and Dad worked with that company and its successors until he retired more than 40 years later. Mom and Dad, during that time, worked to provide a stable home life for my sister and I, and that allowed me the opportunity to succeed in school and university and in my chosen field of law. That stability has continued in my marriage. My wife, Mary, and I have been married 43 years, and we have 3 children and 2 great-grandchildren, and you can listen to one of the great-grandchildren right at the moment, Annabelle. And that stability has been part of my professional life. I guess I sort of followed my dad in that way. I too was a lawyer I spent my law career with one single law firm, and I was there for nearly 40 years. The second thing that I think about is being open to new opportunities. You graduate today and move on to new jobs, or perhaps additional degrees, or maybe some traveling. But do not foreclose your mind to new and often unexpected opportunities that will inevitably come your way. For me, deciding to pursue law came from one of those unexpected opportunities. I became good friends with a fellow employee in my first full-time job at IBM following graduation from McGill. And not long after I met him, he advised me he was going to law school, something I had never met or something I had never thought about. In fact, it had never even been talked about in our household. And I went and I got out a number of law school calendars, and I thought, there's a lot of pretty interesting things in the law. Maybe that would be something to pursue. And a year later, I went to law school. And attending law school has led to many other opportunities. Among them, a highlight is moving with my family from Toronto to Calgary to help set up the first national law firm in Canada. Now, that was more than 33 years ago. The third thing I think of is giving back, or in today's world, paying it forward. When you have success in your life and in your career, you are, in my way of thinking, obligated to give back to the people and to the community around you. Now, that can be done in many ways. You can volunteer, such as with your children's sports teams, their schools, in your religious community. Not-for-profit organizations are always seeking help. There's the United Way, the Calgary Food Bank, the Cancer Society, and many others. And if you are able to, do not forget to give generously to charity, and of course, to your alma mater, Mount Royal University. I'm not being paid for that ad, by the way. Anyway, enough said. Please enjoy this day, and I wish each of you great success in your life and in your career. Thank you.